Good morning all. Thank you very much for attending today. I very much appreciate your time, know how valuable your time is, which is why I've ensured today that the data and content that we present be both tactical and strategic in helping you build and manage a successful sales organization. As we all know, the backbone of any sales organization, of any organization, is sales. And without a strong sales organization, driving revenue, building and achieving growth targets become an extremely difficult task. One of the biggest challenges facing MSPs today is hiring and managing a highly productive sales organization. Salespeople by nature are lazy, inconsistent, good talkers, and must be managed to ensure they meet their full potential. Acquiring good sales talent, as we all know, and building a truly successful sales organization is no simple feat. My name is Frank Colletti. I'm the Vice President of Sales for Enable Technology, and my goal here today is to share with you my 20 years of experience in sales and sales management so that you can leave here with one or two key business points or tactical points and apply them to your business to grow your revenues. I started my sales career early in my life selling everything from newspapers to marketing services to toner cartridges all the way through to semiconductors, and finally today for the past 15 years selling software. And if there's one key thing that I've learned is that there's no easy road to success in sales. It takes drive, it takes energy, and consistency to succeed. If you have passion and commitment, then you will succeed. If not, you'll have a difficult time and will simply fail. In the MSP market, it's no different. It all similarly starts with the sales funnel. And so that's where I'd like to start our presentation today. And as we look at any successful sales organization, the sales funnel really becomes the critical factor in the success of any organization. Understanding the metrics that it takes to actually produce a sale. And what you see here in front of you represents a sales funnel which I follow on a day-to-day, month-by-month, year-to-year basis, where I track the total number of dials, the total number of leads, the number of what we call initial presentations or presentations to an initial customer, to the ones that actually get completed, to the actual close ratio. And what's really important about this is that within many organizations, there's simply not just one funnel. There's many different funnels, depending if you're selling to new customers, whether you're selling to existing customers, understanding the average deal size, understanding the number of deals that are completed per sales rep, and understanding exactly the different matrix of what you're looking to accomplish. What you see here in front of you represents a new customer acquisition strategy, and this is really important in having these metrics. And the challenge with most organizations is that they don't take the time to basically break down the simple functions of sales, and that is understanding how to create opportunities. And opportunities start with making phone calls or driving leads directly through marketing. That combination allows you to speak to a percentage of prospects. Those prospects then allow you to move into a position where you can put them into the funnel and actually get to a particular closing ratio. In the later slides, I'll actually demonstrate exactly what the sales funnel looks like for an MSP. As we move forward and as we move to looking at this and relating this to an MSP, understanding the metrics that are key to an MSP, they look similar to this. And what I've tried to do throughout this presentation is map it so that we take our sales funnel and map it to an MSP. And having the experience in this space, most organizations, to be successful, need about 1,000 dials. They need to generate approximately 75 leads per month. They need to complete approximately 15 initial presentations. They need to complete 12 of them, and they need to have a closing ratio of approximately 20%. Now, when many salespeople see this, their jaws drop and they realize, look at the level of activity and work that I need to do as an individual to drive my business. But the challenge is, when dealing with the SMB market, if you don't have this high level of activity, the reality is you will never get in front of enough prospects to generate the right amount of opportunities for yourself, nor will you generate the right amount of opportunities to build your pipeline to have a consistent sales funnel for the next 30, 60, or 90 days. And so the metrics that you see here in front of you are what many of our successful organizations are using today. Now understand that these funnels can represent, there could be 2 or 3 of these with any sales organization. If you were to try to cross-sell and upsell your existing customers, then effectively you would have different metrics and different funnels. So my biggest recommendation for anyone is, first of all, I would recommend taking a screenshot of this. Second of all, I would get your sales organization to start tracking the number of dials that they're making on a daily basis, tracking the number of true leads that marketing provides you, not just names, but leads. Somebody who's interested, somebody who's downloaded something and is interested in using or understanding your product or solution better. And then tracking the number of people that they actually get interested into a scheduled appointment. From that scheduled appointment, how many actually go off or actually complete? And then what's your closing ratio? Also, go back through your history over the last 12 months and understand what is your average deal size. So you can automatically understand that if you go through this funnel, how much revenue you will generate on the other end. When we look at the sales funnel, there's multiple sales funnels within a sales organization, and that sales funnel really dictates the success of a business and their ability to dictate their revenues in a consistent manner on a monthly, on a quarterly, or on a yearly basis. And so my recommendation is that you take the time to track these metrics and look at them through your sales organization. As we proceed forward and look at what you need to build and manage a sales organization, really there's sort of 3 parts. The first part is included, which is define your market and segment it. Secondly, your pre-sales process. And then third, your actual defined sales process. And we will drill into each of those 3 momentarily. The second section is all about the training program that you have for your team, the makeup of your team, and the productized offerings that you're going to be selling to your customers. The biggest challenge that many customers face is that they don't take the time to invest in their sales organization. They don't train them heavily enough, nor do they give them the tools to actually sell effectively to their target audience. So that's what the second section is all about. And the third is really all around reporting, understanding the metrics, understanding the metrics that you're responsible for your salespeople, and the corporate management metrics that will allow you to align with the goals of the actual organization. So let's start directly with market segmentation. Who is it that you sell to? Are you selling to the SMB market that's 5 to 75 seats? Because if so, it's different than selling to the mid-size market that's 75 to 250. Or are you selling to the 1 to 5 seat organization? Secondly, are you selling to verticals? Are you using partnerships? Are you targeting the decision maker or the technical buyer? And where is it that you're selling? These all have an impact on the way that you approach the way that you sell in your market, and will have a direct impact on the metrics that you use to track your overall funnel. This is really important because many organizations go out there and simply use a shotgun approach. And what that does is really kind of brings you a lot of opportunities, but some that don't fit the bill that your organization can actually deliver on. And ultimately, what happens is it actually costs you more money to track those opportunities than what the revenue is actually worth. So the second component is really, of the first section, is really about customer segmentation. And this is important because depending on who you're targeting, if you're targeting new customer acquisition versus targeting existing customers, then your strategy and your approach will be much different. If you're targeting new customer acquisition, what's your value proposition? What's your competitive differentiator? And what's your sales approach? Some organizations like to take an aggressive approach. Some organizations like to take a consultative approach. Some organizations just simply don't know. And that's when the salesperson is left in limbo. And what I find with most MSPs, unfortunately, is that they hire salespeople. They give the salesperson a sales desk and say, okay, go get me sales. They don't take the time to define for them who they're selling to, the value proposition, the competitive differentiator, and the approach they should be taking. So those should be all defined up front before any salesperson is actually hired. The second segmentation is around existing customers. If it's an existing customer, then it's upselling and cross-selling. If you get an initial customer, what can you sell that customer as an additional services, as additional licenses? And how do you convert customers from one program to another program? And how do you go into your base and actually uncover those opportunities to get much deeper into each of those various areas? Then the third component is really all around understanding your customers and prospects. And this is something that we've developed internally that helps you within our Blueprint for Success. So if you're an Enable customer, you can download this on our Partner Resource Center, where you could actually segment your base, where you could get the client name, where they're located, the number of IT staff, how many desktops, how many servers, how many network devices, what's their average monthly labor rate that they have with you, what's the average number of customers they have, the vertical, the industry, and be able to understand your customers so that you could proactively go in there and actually manage each and every one of those components. But now that we understand the first section and understanding customers and prospects, let's take a little bit deeper in understanding what it takes from a pre-sales perspective to go in and understanding how to generate and drive business forward. So if we look at pre-sales, where do we go to actually get leads? How do we generate leads? And I think salespeople miss the boat here, where they sit back and wait for marketing to give them leads. And if there's one thing that I've learned in my history, is that you need to have a close relationship with marketing. You need to work diligently to generate the right amount of leads with them, but ultimately the salesperson has to be responsible to go out there themselves and use tools like different business directories like Manta, Yelp, Zoom Info, Yellow Pages, Business.com. Go out there and use social media such as LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably one of the most powerful social media tools that we have right now in different communities to uncover organizations that are within specific geographies, within specific verticals, different organizations, to go out there and generate that. And I got to be honest, it's not an easy task. Some people find it very easy to do, but salespeople struggle. But the reality is, this is where they could generate some of their hottest leads that they have there. Secondly, Twitter, blogs, forums, different list sources. So Info USA, Dun & Bradstreet, Hoover's, you name it, any one of the above can be used. And really, these are generating names. These are generating contacts for you to reach out to and establish an opportunity with a potential prospect to get them into your sales funnel. And this is really, really important, because if this is not done right, then all you're doing is you're calling the same old names in the same old database over and over. In using LinkedIn, the premium version, you could go in there, use key search words, look up specific customers, look up specific levels of people that you want to speak to, whether it's VP, CXO, partner, ownership, manager, you name it, and use any one of these components to actually drive each of these pieces forward. So if you don't have a LinkedIn account, or your salespeople don't, my recommendation is, as an investment in them, pay for this. It's a small subscription, but it can do wonders in generating new leads for your organization. The other things that you can look at are networking events. And selling managed services, typically you're selling in your community. You're selling in your city. So the Chamber of Commerce is a great place, Business Network International, entrepreneurs organizations, and there's a plethora of these various networking events that you can attend. My recommendation is that the business owner attend these networking events. The business owner is typically the best salesperson within any MSP. They own the relationship, they're talking to the other business owners, and going into these events and generating opportunities for your salespeople can become a very good use of your time and a highly productive use of your time to generating opportunities and building a sales funnel within your business. Customer referrals, I can't stress enough how important this is. This is probably one of the easiest areas for you to get some of the hottest leads. Salespeople just simply don't ask for them. I don't know why. I don't know why people don't use this more often, but I can assure you that in any given month, of our 3,000 customers, I am reaching out to a handful of them any given month to generate referrals. Why? Because once you get a referral from someone in your industry or a colleague, that really gives you a lot of clout, and have that referral introduce you or set up the call directly with that prospect that they're calling. And this is really important because you could easily generate a lot of revenue from this with a high close ratio. And then anything with writing or blogs, such as blogs, case studies, newsletters, it's really important to come out with value. Your prospects want value, and it's not about talking to them once, it's about talking to them over the course of time and finding them at a point where there's pain in their lives about what's going on in their business. And you need to be there at the right time. You need to be talking to them so that you're hitting them with the right messages to drive each of those pieces forward. So my recommendation when you look at pre-sales, there's so many different areas that you can look at that many organizations aren't doing. And I say that these are some of the more tactical approaches to take that can have a big impact on your business and the way you do things. Then you really want to look at what are the tools you're using internally. Many MSPs are using ConnectWise or Autotask or professional services automation tool. And my recommendation, if you're not using that and you're not using a Salesforce.com or Microsoft CRM or Sugar CRM or what have you, you need to invest in this because you need to keep the data, the content, the information all within the corporate environment. You need to use these tools effectively to track pipelines, to track the contacts, to follow them through the sales funnel in each of those various components. And this is important because if you don't, then you'll never be able to get visibility. And we go to the last part of what's needed to build a successful sales organization is all about reporting. And having tools such as this give you instant information of what's happening. And I can tell you across my sales organization of 90 people that we have globally, I can tell you down to the deal or to the dial of what my sales organization is doing, the number of transactions, the type of transactions, the number of presentations, because they are all indicators of my success in any given month, quarter, or year. And I need to follow those and track them successfully in order for me to do this. Now, one thing that we found, and I've been recommending to a lot of MSPs, is something called the predictive dialer, something called Phone Burner. And it's something that you could simply do. It's a company called phoneburner.com. And really what it allows you to do is upload your leads, number one. It allows you to record a voicemail. It allows you to choose the contacts that you want off that list. And number four, it allows you to just burn through that list and get through a bunch of prospects. If you recall back to my funnel, if you have to make 50 dials a day, the Phone Burner can probably get through those 50 dials in about an hour. Why? Because you'll call 50 people and you'll probably get maybe if you're lucky, 2 to 3 to 5 that'll pick up the phone. But the important thing is, of those 50, you can actually leave a recorded message. And what's great about Phone Burner is that you're not actually, many of you are at home, you get cold calls. where the phone picks up and there's a little bit of a delay. It doesn't work that way. The rep actually dictates who they want to call, and they set them in order. So it's not just about making dials, it's about helping get through the dials faster, and it's about reaching that customer. So if you want to leave a particular message for a particular campaign today, then you could get through all your 50 very quickly and left a voice message. Maybe you get one callback. Maybe you go through it the entire week, and maybe you get one call back through the entire week. But that one call back you never would have gotten anyways. And if you made those 50 calls throughout that week, or those 250, then the reality is you'll probably have reached about 25 of them, and you'll probably have booked 5 presentations as a result of it. And if you get that extra one from the recorded message, or from them hearing you over and over and over, eventually some of them will call back. So my recommendation is take a look at technologies like this. There's many of them out there, not just phone burner, but it could help you deal with the objection from your salespeople that there's absolutely no way they can make 50 calls a day. Our sales organization makes anywhere from 80 to 100 dials a day, based on all the processes that we've built internally. And I can tell you that when we look at sales process, it's vital that you understand the metrics that it takes to actually solidify a transaction. So you should look back over the last few years of your business. Where did you get most of your business from? If most of your business came from word of mouth or from referrals, then maybe phone burner is not going to be the approach for you. So then the question becomes, if it's just referrals, then how many referrals did you get? And how many of those referrals actually led to presentations? And of those presentations, how many went into the pipeline and how many actually closed? Now, if you're looking to scale your business and grow your business, then you need to start thinking outside the box and looking at the metrics that I provided in my sales funnel, and actually start to measure and put these measurements in front of your salespeople to start working to achieve those targets. Now, when we look at the sales funnel, this is the enable sales funnel, and I thought it'd be important to share this with you because we take a lot of time in doing this, and what you find is that there's no magic here. And what's interesting about this is that this is not a linear funnel. Unfortunately, it can only be presented that way, but because either selling the enable solution or selling managed services, they're both solution-oriented products or services that we have to sell. And what's important about selling solutions is that you don't follow step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 and expect to close a sale, because they're emotional sales. They're things that you need to get close with the business owner. You need to understand the pain points that are happening within the business environment. So you need to understand each of the steps that are going to have an impact on that sales process, spark an emotional response so you can move to the next step. The reality is, it doesn't matter if you start at the initial stage or if you start at the quote stage or the technical stage. The reality is that you have to complete every single one of the steps and not skip any, and not try to go fast, because the reality is you probably won't have a bad presentation. You'll have either good presentations that close, or good presentations that don't close. And so when you have the sales funnel, I've mapped this for MSPs. So my recommendation is look at this, take a screenshot of this one here, and let's simply walk through this. So you have a raw lead at the beginning. A raw lead is any of the pre-sales things that I've talked about. This is a name, this is a database, this is your buildup of your marketplace. And anytime I open up a new geo or we go into a specific vertical, we build up the database. That's what raw leads are all about. Build up that database, then from there, implement phone burner, make dials, use marketing, some kind of click through, something that happens, and get an initial conversation with that customer. If you notice all the arrows going forward, they go back and forth. Why? Because you can either go to the technical stage or you can go to the business analysis stage. The technical stage, especially in selling managed services, sometimes you need to go in and do an analysis of what's happening within their business. You need to do an assessment, you need to do an asset inventory, you need to identify if all the machines have been patched, if they've been updated, and you need to provide some kind of value so that you can get to do a business analysis with that customer. If so, then you can go down the path of doing a business analysis or an ROI with that customer to demonstrate the value of your solution. It doesn't matter which one goes first. It doesn't matter if you start one and the other one starts simultaneously. What matters is that you check the box and you actually complete that stage and actually do the technical assessment and actually do the business analysis. Because if you don't and you simply send out proposals, then you're wasting your time and you're wasting valuable resources. A lot of salespeople say, oh, I got five proposals out. And I look at them and I say, so what? Why did you send a proposal out? Like, when do you expect it to come in? Oh, they have to review it, it's next week. So why don't you just simply send them an email with the pricing? Because the proposal's the exact same. So the proposal stage is when you have to formalize based on your technical assessment and the business analysis that you did, where you're in front of the business owner, in front of the decision maker, and got that proposal out in front of that customer. From there, you get to deal time. And this is probably the most enjoyable part of selling, where you deal with the objections, you deal with the follow-up calls, you deal with the new person, the new decision maker that's introduced. And deal time is all about negotiations, and it's all about feeling out the customer, making sure that everything to the left has been done correctly. And sometimes when you're there, you need to go right back to the beginning, right to the initial stage, and start the process over. And if you're a well-disciplined salesperson, you will understand and read that sales process properly and go back to that initial stage, check the boxes off, make sure it's done right, get to the deal stage, ask for the business, and either win the deal, lose the deal, or put it into a future opportunity bucket to move that forward. And the reality is, your biggest competitor is not a physical competitor, but your biggest competitor is actually your future opportunities that do nothing, that make no decision whatsoever. So if you don't have a defined sales process, my recommendation is that you take the time to actually build one of these out. This works very well for many of our MSPs, regardless if you're selling a la carte services, if you're selling fully fixed fee managed engagements, whether you're selling projects, whether you're selling supplemental services to IT departments. You need to understand the steps that are involved, and you need to track them as they come through, because the sales funnel sits right above the initial tab. The sales funnel comes in, it gives you the opportunity to take the customer through the sales funnel and bring it right through to deal time. And from that stage, either you win, you lose, or the bucket goes nowhere. And a good sales rep should have a closing ratio of approximately 30%. Your average rep will have about 20%. And if you can hedge your bets across a few different salespeople, then you can probably bring your average to about 25%, and that's a good investment in your business to generate the revenue that you're looking for. Now, what's the makeup of a successful sales team? So, you need to understand this quite well in order to position your business effectively. And what I mean by that is the ability for you to understand if new customer acquisition is your focus, then you really may want to invest in an inside sales organization that is focused only on lead generation, prospecting, cold calling, and booking qualified meetings. If you can afford to do this, it's probably one of the best investments you can make. There's a lot of third-party tools that will make calls and book appointments for you. Sometimes, if you're the only business owner and you're a small organization, going outside, providing the names and the leads to a third party to generate appointments for you as the business owner can be highly valuable in building that out. The second is getting a new customer acquisition sales team who's focused on new client acquisition. If you hire a new client acquisition team, don't give them your database of existing customers. Give them the database of the prospects that you have, because the biggest mistake that a lot of MSPs make, they hire a new customer acquisition sales rep. The first thing the sales rep says is, can I get the customer list? No, you can't get the customer list because I hired you to go acquire new customers. You can get everything else but those customers. These are who our customers are. Don't call them because you don't get comped on them. And that's really, really important in focusing on that. And what you want to find is not necessarily finding that truly experienced, high-value salesperson, because sometimes they cost a heck of a lot of money and they don't even deliver any results. And they want the company to give them all the leads, all the opportunities on a silver platter. You want to find someone who has been in the sales world for a while, who is up and coming, who has a desire to win, who potentially, is entrepreneurial, who sees a little bit more than just sales on the horizon in their business, and make them part of your business. Don't treat them just like a salesperson. Make them feel part of the decisions that are going on, because they will impact the whole sales cycle that you have and can have an impact and take you to the right type of opportunities going forward. And then thirdly, if you have a big managed services base already and you want to make sure you retain those customers, then you need an account representative, somebody who's going to focus on retention, cross-selling, upselling, and manage the whole cycle, life cycle of that customer to make sure that you're getting the most out of that customer and making sure that you bring each of those components forward. So these are really important as you look at the DNA of a sales organization. And I understand that a lot of things that I'm providing you here today sort of focus on many levels. What I can say is, depending on your business, depending on your market, depending on where you're selling and the culture of the geography in which you're selling to, it's important that you take each of these components and apply the ones that make sense to you. Building a sales process, building a sales model, and looking at sales as a critical component to your business will have a massive impact to the way that you actually do that. Because if you go out there and you don't understand that sales process, then you can never define the difference between selling technology and selling business solution. And as MSPs, you're technologists. You guys understand technology really well. But guess who you're selling to? You're selling to SMB customers, and those SMB customers are typically business owners. They're the ones that are making the decisions. They're the CFO, they're the CEO, they're the technical directors. They're all of the above. And the reality is, if you go out there and start selling feeds and speeds, then you're going to ask for the business and they're going to say how much. And that's all you're going to get, because technology only gets consumed when it's needed, and they only buy as much as they need. And the reality is, you cannot push technology through a pipeline. They will buy when they're ready to buy, when the need dictates. But you're selling a managed service, and a managed services is all about selling uptime versus downtime. It's all about selling your services to allow them to run their business in an effective manner, so you can focus on IT and they can focus on what they do. And a business solution is an investment in their business because it affects their profitability and it sparks an emotional sale with the need to purchase. And this is really, really important, because if you don't align these two things with the sales process, the reality is you're going to have a challenging time really honing in on your value proposition and the message to the customer that you're selling. And don't try to sell to everybody in the actual pyramid or the market segmentation. Don't try to sell to the enterprise while you're trying to sell to the SMB, because, well, you can do that if you have two different salespeople that are focused on two different groups. But don't give one person the ability to go out there and sell to everybody, because a salesperson will chase their tail over and over and over to try to generate the biggest elephant that they can and bring it to the table, when maybe it doesn't even fit the profile of what you could actually deliver from an IT standpoint. And that's why this is critical, because it could affect the name of your business, it could affect the way you're perceived in the market, and it can affect the profitability of the type of business that you actually generate. Now, the next slide, I think, is probably one of the most important in giving your salespeople a productized services offering. As MSPs, you probably have one of the most challenging jobs in selling your services. Why? Because you're not selling a product. You can't say to the customer, pick up pick up this mouse clicker and tell me if you like it. Pick up your iPhone and tell me if you like the way that it operates. They could try it, they can feel it. Download N Central and tell me if it actually meets your needs or your requirements after you've trialed it. You're selling a service, and when you sell a service, it's an intangible, and that intangible needs to be productized, and you need to tell your sales organization what it is they're selling. So you need to break your services offering into buckets so that they could go there very clearly and actually sell each of the various services that you provide and give the customer a clear path to buying a solution from you in any one of these buckets that they may have. I can't stress this enough, because if you don't do this, your salespeople will bring you all kinds of sales with probably low margins that are not highly profitable, and you will spend a lot of money paying that salesperson for a transaction that's not going to generate business that you want for your business. So I look at my sales organization, I revise my initial presentation, I revise my technical presentation, my business analysis, my onboarding, my support of my customers, the retention, and I look at that on a quarterly, on a monthly basis to make sure that I'm in line with what needs to be done. And my team is given every single piece of collateral that they need in order to be successful, because I know my customers very well, and as business owners, you probably know your customers very well. It's important you take that knowledge and you put it on paper and you give it to your salespeople to go out there and give them tools to go out there and sell. And one of the benefits of leveraging Enable is that as part of our Blueprint for Success, we help productize your sales offerings. These represent the 4 programs across the Gartner maturity model of how you sell your services. And one of the value propositions that we bring is that we help you align the Enable technology with the way the SMB customer wants to consume managed services from you, and we help you build your program so you can build out these productized services offerings that align with the way your customers want to buy, and put that in front of your customer so you ultimately lead your customer to the right for a higher and higher transaction, but most importantly that you build recurring revenue across all of your customer types. So when we wrap up the first 2 sections of what's required to build a successful sales organization, each of the components, defining your market segment, looking at your pre-sales process, defining your sales process in section number 1 is vital to your business. The second is your training program, your team makeup, and your productized offerings. All of these will make up what your model looks like and how you take each of those components going forward. I want to take a moment now to look at training. Training is so important because if you don't take the time to train your sales organization, then they will train themselves on who knows what. And that's not what you want. You want them communicating your messaging. You want them communicating the things that are important to your business and how you bring each of those pieces forward. And so when you look at weekly training, the content, new hiring, product training, you should have a program and a plan for this. Most organizations go out there and all they simply do is sit the rep down, give them a laptop, give them a database and say, start calling. And that will get you nowhere. You may as well have not hired that person because you're doing them a disservice and you're doing yourself a disservice. And you have to make sure that that salesperson, when they're introduced into the company, are introduced as an important part of the business, that they are important to the growth of this organization, with the caveat that they'll only be important as long as they generate revenue. But their ideas and the things that they bring to the table must be important. And I say that with a grain of salt because you should be giving them the programs. You should be giving them the sales process. You should be telling them where to go to generate leads, who their prospects are, and who they should be actually selling to. And this is really important because if it's not done, then the reality is most salespeople will go out there, they don't have a lot of training, they're lazy, they don't want to do their own training, and they won't do any of that. That leads me to hiring and retaining top talent. You need to build compensation plans to the profile of rep that you want. And you can't be scared to pay that person when they actually are successful. Salespeople are generated by revenue. They're generated by the amount of money that they earn. They're generated by success. So give them recognition, give them awards, give them autonomy within reason of the things that they can do. Put special spiffs in place, such as President's Club, Stars Awards, different spiffs, monthly, weekly, quarterly. Keep their brain working, because they're thinking about the next order. They're thinking about the next sale. And if you go back to my sales funnel and you're expecting them to make 1,000 dials, generate the number of leads, the 15 appointments, the 12 completed, and close the X number of deals, then you need to do all of these things to ensure, number one, you're hiring the right people and you're giving them the right profile. But when you find that right person, make sure you retain them, because I can tell you right now, highly successful salespeople are always poached, and they're always moving from company to company because somebody is willing to pay them more money and give them more opportunity. And if they're not feeling recognized and valued for the solution that they're doing, then the reality is they're simply going to move, and all the investment that you made is you're going to have to go through that whole process. And I can tell you, you may do this right, and that still may happen. And it's one of the most challenging things that you face in hiring salespeople. But what you can do is be straight up with the person that you're hiring. Give them the black and white. Tell them exactly what they're going to earn. Don't change their comp plans. Don't mess with the way that they're doing things. And don't allow influences within the business, if they're making a lot of money, to change the profile and the outlook of that person. Because if you do that, you will break everything that you've done, and you got to stay consistent. And you have the right as the business owner every year or every recycle, whenever that compensation plan comes due, to rechange the way that you think things based on growth. You have that right. But make sure that your process and your model is in place in order for you to do that effectively. So when we look at how do we track this data, how do we build all of these different components, my recommendation is that all of your data, all of your solutions, everything that you have should live in CRM. And if you are currently have not invested in a CRM system, or you're not taking your PSA to the fullest extent, make sure you are. Have your sales rep track all their activities, their calls, their emails, their tasks, their notes, all in CRM. If they push back, too bad, so sad. The reality is you need to have that information, because when one sales rep leaves, you need to be able to give visibility into that account to the next person that's going to take it over. And you need to be able to report on that. You need to be able to track the funnel. And the coming slides, I'll actually share with you the different reports or the different things that you need. And you need to break down your leads and your accounts model so that your sales reps, if they're a hunter profile or a farming profile, are focused in on one or the other. You need to be able to track your opportunities so that you understand your average selling cycle, the number of days, the type of opportunity, and what your sales pipe looks like, so you can predict your revenues weekly, monthly, quarterly, and of course yearly, and actually set a plan at the beginning of the year to hit those targets. And my recommendation is that you have targets that you want to hit. Make them realistic. Don't make them unrealistic. Give your reps an opportunity to succeed. Because if they're beat up every day and they're not successful, and the reality is when they speak to your customers or your prospects, they'll feel that on the other line. You need to set realistic targets based on what the business can actually do, what the business can absorb, and what you're actually capable of paying as an organization. And the last part really of my presentation today is really all around the management and activity, the management of activity, taking a look at what's required within the business to make sure that what you saw here today in the presentation can actually be tracked effectively. And when we break that down, you want to have the ability to look at weekly metrics to review the activity in the pipeline. So you want to see how many dials were done, how many new opportunities were created, and how much the pipeline is actually grown. You also want to be able to catch issues in your pipeline quickly so that you have visibility to affect something within that transaction. And you need to do this weekly so you have a pulse as to what's happening within your business. Because if you let this carry on too long, then you'll miss the opportunity and you'll be 3 to 4 weeks behind and you can never catch up. You need to do monthly one-on-ones, which are different than weekly one-on-ones. Why? Because you need to analyze all aspects of the business, of the rep's business. You need to look at the number of net new leads they generated, the number of new opportunities marketing or the company has provided. You need to look at their value proposition. You need to understand the issues that are happening within their business. You need to make sure that you have that taken into consideration, and you need to make sure that they haven't lost touch with the way that they're presenting to their customers and how you're building each of those pieces going forward. So tracking metrics such as the total number of accounts that they're booking. So this represents one account representative, who they've actually presented to, and what kind of profile was it? Was it a good fit? Was it not a good fit to the business? When did it happen? In which month? And by what rep? Then you want to be able to look at the activity that they've had. So look at the pipeline based on last activity. So if someone is forecasting a deal for the month of June, but the last time they talked to them was in February, well, the likelihood of them closing is highly unlikely. So they're giving you a bogus forecast. And you need to be able to drill into that using this level of activity. And it doesn't matter if you have 1 or 2 salespeople. These are best practices that you need to use. These are best practices for salespeople. It doesn't matter if you have a small organization or a large organization. The same principles apply, because if these type of things aren't done, then the ability for you to get through more and more prospects and for you to generate more and more leads or opportunities, they'll never be achieved. And that carries on to the activities. So what are their activities? You map them out, and all of these activities come directly through my CRM that I track through CRM, through my database, and generate these reports and go through each of them. And then on a monthly basis, I review every single aspect of their business. It allows me to analyze their business, and I don't analyze that business on the one-on-one. I analyze that business before the one-on-one so I can maximize the time that I have with my sales reps. And then lastly is reporting. You need to generate reports at the sales level. You need to understand the deals that are at risk, and you need to be able to generate reports to the corporate level. We call it our corporate management team, where I am responsible to the corporate management team in presenting a weekly and a monthly report of my entire pipeline, everything from the number of leads that were generated to the total number of calls that were made, to the total number of presentations that were completed, to the total number of deals in the pipeline, to what I'm forecasting for the month, what I'm forecasting for the week. And that gets presented in a multitude of ways. I look at it, we've got 5 geos globally that we track, and I look at it as my North American team, my European team, my channel team, my UK team. I look at each of the individuals, I track their pipeline, I track their activities, and I make sure that I fully understand what's happening within their environment. Then I want to track the activity that they've done or deals that are at risk on a weekly basis, so I can see from one geo to the next what risk can I have and how can I get the attention of the management team to go in there and give me resources to win that transaction, or the number of presentations that are completed. Now I've got 23 inside sales reps globally that are making 80 to 90 calls a day, so I need to know, am I hitting my daily target? Whether it was 1 or whether it's 23, the metrics are the exact same. You need to have these reports to see them. They become your sales dashboard, and they become the indicators of your success as an organization and your ability to deliver repeatable results on an ongoing basis. And then your weekly management reports, where you're demonstrating by geo each of the various steps, the number of new deals, the number of upgrades or the cross-sell, the number of tools, and then your weekly forecast. And then you build that all up together, and you have a management report that you deliver to the corporate management team so that each of them has visibility, and it puts you on the line every week to make sure that you are responsible and have a handle and a pulse on what's happening within your business. So, in summary, get on the front lines and know your pipeline. Work your pipeline with your sales reps. Make sure that you take the time to define your sales process, your value proposition, and make sure that you got consistent, repeatable processes that you can execute on, and the value proposition that's being delivered maps to the values of your business. Make sure you're looking and hiring the right profile people in that map to the way that you want your business represented. And the only way to do that is to productize your service offering and give them the services that they should sell and train them effectively. Give them visibility. And when you look at that, take all those metrics and implement strategies weekly, monthly, and train your team, put sales meetings in place, and have ways to challenge your reps in a very positive way. Salespeople need positive re-encouragement on a day-to-day basis. It takes a lot of hand-holding to manage a sales organization. And I can tell you one thing that I've learned: don't be afraid to upgrade your team. If you feel that someone is not fitting the profile and your gut is telling you that that person is not a fit within your team, then it's time you make a change. And it's time that you make a change for all the right reasons. And if you've got the right sales process and you've got the right sales model and you know who you're selling to, then you feel justified in making that decision. When people are afraid to make a change, it's because they don't really know if they should or they shouldn't, because they don't really know their business. My biggest piece of recommendation that you can take away from this today is take one or two of these small tactical points. If I hadn't had any sales in my business today, I would start with building my sales funnel. I would simply go back and look at, how did I sign my business today? What did I do to generate that business? And what were the steps that I took to do that? And then slowly over time, look at each of the pieces that I've put in front of you and just put one in place every quarter. One little piece, because selling managed services is not an easy thing. And if anybody ever tells you that, they're mistaken. Selling as a whole is a difficult thing. Why? Because every day you have to come here with your game face. And it's like every day stepping onto the field with a set of professionals, and if you're not prepared, you're going to get run over. And the reality is, to build a sales organization and a sales model that's successful, you need consistency, you need discipline, and you need an understanding of your customer, and you need an understanding of what it is that you want as a business to be successful. My name is Frank Colletti, the Vice President of Sales. I hope that I've shared with you some of the key tactics that I use in managing my sales organizations globally. I hope that as an organization, if you're not using N-Central, that maybe you take a look at our offering that we have, because part of what we deliver is not only a technology that will allow you to deliver managed services in a successful way, but we will also help you deliver on many of the aspects that I've discussed here today, because these are things that exist within our blueprint for success that our customers, our partners, have access to. We have a team globally of channel sales reps, 21 of them in various countries throughout the world, and they're experts in helping service providers and MSPs build out their services offering. And they are a representation of many of the best practices that I've shared with you here that you could take and use within your business. On behalf of Enable Technologies, I thank you very much for your time today, and I hope that you've gained something from this presentation and that each of you can go out there, and as we all know, it's quarter end, and hopefully generate at least one new transaction. Happy selling, everyone. Thank you very much.